So let me just tell you a bit about Haiti, because my time is running. I can just show you stuff. But in Haiti, of course, we had this massive earthquake on January 12th, and we had already 800 people on the ground running 3 hospitals. One of them was a major obstetrics hospital for high-risk pregnancies that the Canadian office was running. So I was there as the emergency coordinator for all of our sections. So we started with the 800 staff. Some of them didn't come out alive. We sent more people, logistics experts, water and sanitation. It ballooned to about 3,000 staff, which is where we're at today, and we were working in 26 different sites. And so for my job as the coordinator, I had the press officers, the video, the photographer. We were dealing with so many requests for interviews and people just showing up. And so we used Twitter quite a bit to get those short updates out. This is a little story I want to tell you about how things really exploded for us. We got word in the office, and this is in the early hours, that our plane full of cargo, but most especially an inflatable tent that would have allowed us to do the trauma surgery right away, was diverted. It had permission to land as far as we knew, but as it was flying overhead, the control tower, which right away was taken over by the U.S. Air Force, said, look, we can't allow you to land. And it was extremely distressing for our medical staff, for the surgeons, who by this point were running out of supplies. They were running out of supplies. They were having to buy, the famous story for us, which was embarrassing afterward because the medical specialists were saying, God, why did we admit that? But we were buying saws in the market for amputations because our saws only last so long, the ones that you have in your emergency kit. And you can't just use them forever. It's like a razor. You have to replace the blade. So we kept up the pressure on Twitter immediately. We also reached out, as is the classic Twitter mode, to those who had broad reach, the influencers, those who had good following in Haiti itself. We did it in English and in French. We linked always to our press release that had the full story. That's basic stuff. And then, wouldn't you know it, the journalists like Anne Curry started to pick up the story. And they took it upon themselves, Anne Curry in particular, not only to tweet it to her 1 million followers, thank you, but also she actually called her contacts at the Pentagon and the Air Force and in Congress, and she started to get things moving because she had been in the field with us. She knew who we were, so it was for her a no-brainer to help us out. We were stunned, but so was the U.S. Air Force, because no sooner did they get her tweet. So we're working on it right now, more to follow. U.S. Air Force, they were actually very gracious about this whole thing, and it wasn't easy for them. Here are all the people that picked up Anne Curry's message, and they were tweeting, and the U.S. Air Force, we're working on it right now, more to follow. We're working on it right now, more to follow. This is the kind of phenomenon that happens in Twitter. I hate this when it fills up my Twitter stream, but they had a bit of a problem from a public relations perspective. Anyway, so then you get even correspondents who aren't even in the hemisphere, like Stephanie Nolan, who was in Delhi, from the Globe and Mail, saying, well, what's going on? And that, again, was an opportunity for us to give the little smidgens of updates that we had. Worked to charm. So again, I'm probably, you're not all able to see the screen, but no official reason. The tower told the pilot, already flying above Port-au-Prince, to reroute to Dominican Republic instead of landing, and then back to the news page. There was a story that there was a dust-up in the control tower, that French officials who take ownership of Médecins Sans Frontières for historical reasons actually went in there ready to rumble with the U.S. authorities. And we had to clarify that, which of course is a great use of Twitter too, because you can address rumors and speculation. So this is just a message to a journalist saying that we have nothing to do with U.S. French fries issues. And then wouldn't you know, at the moment that the plane gets authorization to land, who's the first to let the world know? It's the U.S. Air Force. Of course. I like this person. I don't know who it is, but I like them. And then they had to tell all the people that had been harassed. Right? So that's just the Twitter feed, just to show us. I'm just giving you a bit of a slice of life, what was going on. And then, what do you know, the journalists put 2 and 2 together and concluded that Twitter had helped land the planes. slight exaggeration, I think. I think the phone calls to the Pentagon and to various leaders probably did a lot too. But yeah, the US Daily News and various others said that it was Twitter, and of course that became a different angle on the story that wasn't so bleak. It wasn't, just about death and destruction in Haiti. It was this nice little story about, good in social media. So people kind of ran with it. But of course there was a lot we were doing. We thanked Anne Curry, we thanked the Air Force, we thanked the supporters. But the truth is we got criticized for this. And I think quite rightly so. I mean, were we criticized? Those who concluded that Twitter had helped land the plane. There's a blogger that I discovered through Twitter, Michael Kaiser, who pointed out, and I'll just read for you because it's so small. Conflicts about priorities are now fought out over Twitter, which I can only be very unhappy about. This is a triumph of the loudest voice instead of reason. Perhaps MSF's flight should have gotten highest priority, but getting that about by flooding US Air Force Twitter account is not the way to go, and I'm afraid that this tactic will actually be detrimental to MSF's interests and, more importantly, their patients' interests in the long term. That didn't feel too good to read that, because he was kind of right, I think. I think he was right. It'll be the loudest voice. I mean, it's great when it's a smart voice like ours. But what happens when it's the bogus voice doing this? And so I tried to point out to him and just address it. I mean, when we're criticized, we try to say, yeah, okay, well, here's our view. And I pointed out that it was just a small part of all the advocacy that we did. That we had lots of behind-the-scenes diplomacy going on as well.